They say the truth will set you free. But what if the truth is so twisted, so tangled in lies, that even freedom comes at a price? For years, the world saw Gypsy Rose Blanchard as a prisoner, not just locked away in a home she could never escape, but trapped inside a body that wasn't even sick. She was the fragile little girl in the wheelchair, the daughter who never walked, never ate solid food, never lived a normal life. A child held captive by her own mother, forced to play a role in a story she never wrote. But then, something happened. The girl who was too weak to stand, too sick to live without constant care, suddenly found the strength to plan a murder. And not just any murder, her own mother's. She didn't run. She didn't call for help. She didn't go to the police. She planned it. She orchestrated it. She made sure it happened. So now, we ask, was Gypsy Rose Blanchard a victim, a villain, or something far more complicated? Because in this case, the truth isn't just shocking, it's unsettling. It's the kind of truth that makes you question everything. And when you see the evidence that most people ignore, the details that never made the headlines, and the shocking revelations about Gypsy's life after prison, you might start to wonder, did Gypsy Rose ever really stop lying? Was she an abused child with no way out, or was she always in control? Stay with us, because this story isn't over. And by the time we're done, you might not see Gypsy Rose the same way again. Oh, and one more thing, before we dive into this twisted truth, make sure to subscribe if you love deep dives into the most shocking cases of family betrayal. Because trust me, this one will leave you speechless. Before the murder, before the trial, before the world knew the name Gypsy Rose Blanchard, there was a little girl. A girl who was never allowed to walk, never allowed to eat solid food, never allowed to live the way other children did. Her mother, Dee Blanchard, made sure of that. From the moment Gypsy was born, Dee had a story to tell, a tragic tale of a sick, helpless child. The doctors listened. The charities listened. Even the world listened. And Gypsy? She had no choice but to listen, too. Because how do you fight back when the person controlling your life is also the person you love the most? Dee told the world that her daughter had leukemia. That she had muscular dystrophy. That she suffered from epilepsy, asthma, brain damage, disease after disease, condition after condition, a list so long that it seemed like a miracle Gypsy was even alive. But that miracle? It was all a lie. The truth? Gypsy wasn't sick. She never had been. But from the moment she could understand words, Dee made her believe she was. She forced Gypsy into a wheelchair, even though she could walk. She made doctors prescribe medications, even though she didn't need them. She fed her through a tube, even though she could eat. And she shaved her head, telling Gypsy it was because of the chemotherapy. But there was no chemotherapy. There was no cancer. Just a mother who needed the world to believe in the lie, so badly that she made her own daughter believe it, too. But here's the question no one wants to ask, did Gypsy ever really believe it? Because some doctors suspected the truth. Some saw the cracks in Dee's carefully crafted illusion. They noticed that Gypsy's muscles weren't actually weak, that her test results didn't match the diseases she was supposedly battling. But nobody stopped it. Some tried. But Dee had an answer for everything. If a doctor questioned the diagnosis, she found another doctor who wouldn't. If Gypsy tried to speak up, Dee silenced her. She controlled the narrative. She controlled Gypsy. But at what point does control turn into something darker? At what point does a victim stop being just a victim? Because here's something to think about: Gypsy never actually went to school. She never had friends. The only world she knew was the one her mother created. So was she truly brainwashed? Was she a helpless prisoner, so deep in her mother's deception that she didn't know what was real and what wasn't? Or was there a part of her that knew? Because let's not forget, Gypsy wasn't completely isolated. She had access to a computer. She found ways to escape online when she couldn't escape in real life. And in the shadows of the internet, she started creating a life her mother didn't know about. A life where she wasn't sick. A life where she was free. A life where she could be whoever she wanted to be. But when you live a lifetime of lies, can you ever truly stop lying? This brings us to the hardest question of all: could Gypsy have escaped without violence? Could she have gone to the police? Could she have told someone, anyone, what was happening? Would anyone have believed her? Or was murder the only way out? What do you think? Was Gypsy a victim trapped in an unthinkable nightmare? Or was she more aware than she let on? Comment below, we want to hear your thoughts. And if you think this story couldn't get any darker, just wait. Because what Gypsy did next would change everything. But before we go deeper, don't forget to subscribe, because this case isn't just about the past. It's about the secrets that still haven't been uncovered. The night of June 9th, 2015, was not an act of self-defense. It wasn't a moment of desperation, a struggle, or an accident. It was planned. Step by step. Detail by detail. And at the center of it all, was Gypsy Rose Blanchard. For years, Gypsy lived under her mother's rule, imprisoned in a reality shaped by deception. But when she finally decided to break free, she didn't run. She didn't go to the police. She orchestrated a murder. And she didn't do it alone. Enter Nicholas Godejohn. A lonely, socially awkward man who met Gypsy on a Christian dating site. Their relationship wasn't just a teenage romance, it was intense, secretive, and disturbingly dark. They bonded over fantasy worlds, BDSM, and twisted role-play. Gypsy created multiple online personas, different versions of herself, each designed to please Nick's deepest desires. And one of those desires? Murder. Gypsy told Nick everything. How she was sick, how she was trapped, how her mother controlled her every move. But she didn't just paint herself as a prisoner, she painted DD as a villain, the monster in the story that needed to be slain. And Nick? He was more than willing to be the hero. Or at least, that's what Gypsy made him believe. The plan was simple. Gypsy would leave the door unlocked. Nick would sneak in, knife in hand. He would kill DD, while Gypsy hid in the bathroom, covering her ears. She didn't want to see it. But she wanted it to happen. And so, on that fateful night, the plan was set in motion. Nick arrived at the Blanchard home. Gypsy handed him a roll of duct tape, gloves, and the murder weapon, a serrated knife she had stolen from Walmart. Yes. She bought the weapon. Nick went inside, creeping toward DD's bedroom as Gypsy waited just feet away. The house was silent. DD was asleep. She never saw it coming. The first stab woke her. The screams followed. "Help," she cried. "Somebody help me." But no one came. Gypsy was in the next room, hands over her ears, listening to her mother die. 17 stab wounds. That's how many times Nick drove the knife into Dee Dee's body. 17 times. And once it was over, once her mother lay lifeless in a pool of blood, Gypsy and Nick didn't run. They stayed in the house, had sex in the next room, ate brownies together. Gypsy packed a suitcase, money, clothes, wigs, and her mother's stolen jewelry, before the two disappeared into the night. For someone who had been freed from years of abuse, she didn't seem scared. She seemed calm. The next day, Gypsy made sure someone found the body. She and Nick posted a chilling message on Dee Dee's Facebook page, that be asterisk 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 is dead. Asterisk, and then, as if she wanted to be caught, Gypsy and Nick used their real names to book a Greyhound bus ticket. They made no attempt to hide. As if Gypsy was waiting for the moment the world would finally see her for what she wanted them to see, not a sick child, not a victim, but a survivor. But when the police knocked on her door, did she act like someone who had just been freed from a nightmare? Or did she act like someone who knew exactly what she had done? Because here's the part that changes everything, her interrogation. The moment police sat her down and told her that her mother was dead, Gypsy didn't break down. She didn't sob uncontrollably. She simply asked, "Can I see Nick?" No emotion. No panic. Just a quiet, calculated response. But the most shocking evidence wasn't what she said in that room. It was what she had said before the murder even happened. Because Gypsy didn't just convince Nick to do it. She coached him. She laid out every detail, when to come, what to wear, where to find the knife. And once it was done, she sent him a text. "I did it. We did it. We. Not you did it. We did it." So, was Gypsy just a scared girl looking for a way out? Or was she the mastermind all along? Because let's face it, she planned this. She unlocked the door. She bought the weapon. She told Nick exactly what to do. So if this was premeditated, if this was planned, if this wasn't self-defense, is she still just a victim? Or does she become something else? What do you think? Comment below. Is Gypsy a tragic victim who saw no other way out? Or was she more in control than we ever realized? And if you think this story is shocking, wait until you hear what happened next. Because Gypsy's life after prison might be even more surprising than the crime itself. What makes someone a victim? Is it suffering? Is it pain? Is it the lack of control? Or is it the ability to manipulate the world into believing a version of the truth that benefits them the most? For years, Gypsy Rose Blanchard lived in a twisted reality, a world where her mother controlled her every move, where she was forced to live as a child long after she had grown up, where she had no voice, no power, no escape. But when Dee Dee was gone, when the prison bars of her fabricated illnesses had finally fallen away, why did she keep lying? Psychologists have tried to unpack the layers of Gypsy's mind. Was she simply responding to years of trauma, desperate to break free? Or had she learned, from her mother, how to manipulate reality itself? Because here's what people don't talk about. Even after Dee Dee was dead, Gypsy kept lying. She told police she had no idea she could walk. Not true. She told interviewers that she thought she had leukemia. Not true. She told different versions of her story to different people, shifting the narrative depending on what would get her the most sympathy. And then, there's the courtroom footage. When Gypsy first appeared in court, the world expected a broken, traumatized girl. Someone who had been through hell and was finally free. Instead, she smiled. She laughed. She looked happy. But was it relief? Was it nerves? Or was it something else entirely? Because victims don't typically look like they just got away with something. Did she really have no choice? This is the question that divides people to this day. Gypsy insists she had no way out, that the only way to escape was to kill her mother. But, is that true? She had access to the internet. She had contact with multiple doctors. She had spoken to neighbors and friends. And yet, she never ran. Why? Why, if she wanted freedom so badly, did she choose murder over escape? And why did she convince someone else to do it for her? Because let's not forget, Nicholas Godejohn wasn't just her boyfriend. He was her puppet. He claims she used him, played into his weaknesses, made him feel like the only person who could save her. She created fake personas to keep him interested, fed into his darkest fantasies, and led him to believe that killing Dee Dee was the only way they could be together. And after the murder? She didn't look back. She moved on. She left Nick behind, knowing full well that he would take the fall. And he did. Sentenced to life in prison, while Gypsy walked free after just a few years. So now, we have to ask, was Gypsy really the powerless victim she claims to be? Or did she learn something from her mother after all? Because Dee Dee was a master manipulator. She fooled doctors. She fooled charities. She fooled an entire community. And when Gypsy finally got her chance to escape, she fooled us all. What do you think? Was Gypsy Rose Blanchard just a desperate girl with no way out? Or was she always in control? Comment below. Debate it. And if you think this story is shocking, just wait. Because Gypsy's life after prison is even more complicated than before. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is free. After nearly a decade behind bars, she has stepped into the world not as a criminal, not as a victim, but as a celebrity. Interviews. Book deals. Social media fame. Even a marriage before she was even released. The world watched as a woman once thought to be a helpless prisoner of abuse suddenly became something else entirely. A brand. But the question we have to ask now is, what's real? Because the story Gypsy is telling today doesn't always match the story she told before. And that raises a chilling possibility. Is she finally being honest? Or is this just another lie? The moment Gypsy walked free, the world was ready to embrace her. People cheered. Fans celebrated. Social media exploded with messages of support. Because in the eyes of the public, she wasn't just an ex-convict, she was a survivor. And that's where things get interesting. Because unlike most people released from prison, Gypsy didn't disappear into the shadows. She didn't try to lay low. She didn't struggle to rebuild her life from scratch. Instead, she stepped into a spotlight that had been waiting for her. A spotlight she knew exactly how to stand in. She got married before she was even released. She joined social media the moment she got out. She started interviews, teasing book deals, possible TV projects, and more. And just like that, Gypsy Rose Blanchard went from prison inmate to social media influencer. But here's the uncomfortable truth. She doesn't act like someone haunted by her past. She takes smiling selfies. She posts trendy TikToks. She soaks up the attention like someone who has been waiting for this moment for years. And maybe she has. Maybe. Gypsy always knew this day would come. In one interview, Gypsy talks about regret. She says she wishes things had been different. That she wishes she had never involved Nicholas Gojon. But in another? She says she's happy. That she has no reason to be sad. And in yet another? She laughs. Jokes. Tells the world she's just living her best life. So which one is it? Is Gypsy haunted by what she did? Or is she rebranding herself for a world that loves a good redemption story? Because let's be honest. If Gypsy wasn't small, soft-spoken, and conventionally attractive, would the world be so eager to forgive her? Would we still see her as a survivor? Would we still believe she had no choice? Or would we see her the way Nicholas Gojon sees her today, as someone who used another person to commit murder, then walked away free? Because while Gypsy is living her new life, Nicholas? He's still behind bars. And here's the chilling part. He never doubted she loved him. He still believed she meant every word she said. But did she? Or was he just another tool in her escape plan? So now we have to ask. Was Gypsy ever really a prisoner? Or did she just trade one type of control for another? Because she was trapped by her mother for years. But now? She has the entire world wrapped around her finger. What do you think? Is Gypsy truly remorseful, or is this just another role she's playing? Comment below. Debate it. And don't forget to subscribe, because Gypsy's story isn't over yet. Justice. It's supposed to be blind. Unbiased. Fair. But when it comes to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, was it? Because when the judge sentenced her to 10 years behind bars, some thought it was too much. Others? They thought it was nowhere near enough. And then there's Nicholas Gojon. A man who will likely never see freedom again. So we have to ask, was justice really served? Or was this just another case of society choosing who to forgive, and who to forget? Let's start with the facts. Gypsy admitted to planning the murder. She chose Nicholas to carry it out. She provided the weapon. She knew it was coming. And when it was done? She texted him 2 words, "I did it." But in court? Gypsy was not painted as a cold-blooded killer. She was a victim. A prisoner of her mother's twisted lies. A girl who had no choice. And in the end, that saved her. She took a plea deal. She got 10 years. And with good behavior? She didn't even serve the full sentence. Now let's look at Nicholas. The man who actually held the knife. The one who carried out her plan. Nicholas had no history of violence. He wasn't the mastermind. But the court saw him as one thing only, a murderer. No sympathy. No second chances. No plea deal. Instead, a life sentence. No parole. No way out. 2 people committed the same crime. One walked free. The other never will. So we have to ask, was this justice? Or was Nicholas just another pawn in Gypsy's game? Let's play a dangerous game of what if. What if the victim hadn't been D.D. Blanchard? What if it was a father instead of a mother? What if a son had plotted to kill his abusive dad? Would society have rushed to defend him? Would people be making documentaries, writing books, flooding social media with messages of support? Or would the world see him for what he did, murder? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Gypsy was small, frail, soft-spoken. She fit the image of a perfect victim. But if she had been bigger, louder, stronger? Would people have forgiven her so easily? Or would she be sitting in a cell for life, just like Nicholas? This is the real controversy. Because there's no question that Gypsy was a victim. Her mother controlled every aspect of her life. Lied to doctors. Kept her sick on purpose. But does being a victim erase what she did? Did Gypsy manipulate the court the same way she manipulated Nicholas? Did she weaponize her own suffering to get a second chance at life? Because let's not forget. She's free now. Married. Posting on social media. Living a life Nicholas will never have. And the final, chilling question, did she ever really pay for what she did? Or did she just serve the bare minimum? And walk away with a new story to sell? What do you think? Did Gypsy get what she deserved? Was Nicholas punished unfairly? Or was justice never really served at all? Comment below. Debate it. And don't forget to subscribe, because the truth isn't always what it seems. After everything we've uncovered. After every lie, every secret, every shocking twist. One question still lingers. The question that divides the world. The question that only you can answer. Was Gypsy Rose Blanchard a victim? A villain? Or was she something far more dangerous, both? Let me know in the comments. Debate it. Defend it. But don't ignore it. And if you want more true crime betrayals, subscribe, because there's always more to uncover.